Thank you, Joyce. My name is Mike Frostiak. I'm from Optiv Security, and we're proud to be a gold sponsor to the Data STEAM Camp. And I'm supposed to talk a little bit about why we're participating in this and supporting it. And I can't do that without mentioning Joyce Hunter. On April 2nd, I lost my job, and due to COVID, a third of our company was laid off. And by the grace of God, I received an offer in 7 days and took on a new role for a company doing cybersecurity solutions. And one of the accounts they've asked me to cover was the USDA, as well as NASA and the Federal Reserve Bank. And the first person I called was Joyce to say, Joyce, I have this new job and I really need some mentoring. And I said, before I do that, is there anything I can do to help you? And she talked to me about the Data STEAM Camp, and I said, I'll do what I can, and we were able to get an ability to fund that. And to the students, mentors have been so important to me. So find someone like Joyce Hunter, who's all my great mentors are females, I must say. And realistically, Joyce has been so open and warm to helping me with my new job. And when you can find someone who's a comet like Joyce, and you see that long tail behind them, and you look in the sky, grab a hold of that comet, because those mentors will help you learn more than you can ever realize. And so find a mentor, be inquisitive, continue to ask questions, and congratulations to all the students who have participated. So at this point, I have the honor of introducing the Chief Data Officer of the Department of Agriculture, Christopher Alvarez. He is currently leads the initiatives to make better use of data through enterprise tools and data governance and advanced analytics to ensure the USDA gets the greatest value from the data for decision making and delivering services to the American people. Prior to the role, his current role, Christopher served as a special advisor to the GSA and the USDA Data Analytics Center of Excellence, where he worked to modernize IT at the USDA, and has worked at the USDA's Food and Safety Inspection Service, leading a team of analysts. Christopher has also worked for over 10 years in the generation of analysis of genetic data for several biotech companies before joining the USDA. Mr. Alvarez holds a BA in biology and a master's degree in biotechnology from Johns Hopkins University. Without further ado, I give you Mr. Alvarez.
Thank you for that, Mike, and thanks for everyone for having me on today. Really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about my perspectives on data science and agriculture, and I get to hear some of the talks from the students. This is actually my second STEAM camp that I've been involved in. Last year, got a really great opportunity to have lunch with the students who came over to the Department of Agriculture and spent about a day there, an afternoon there. It was in the middle of the project, so I didn't get to kind of see the outcomes in the presentations, but really was impressed with how much you all learn in this process, not just in terms of maybe some of the technical things about using some of these tools to analyze data and get access to it and visualize it, but how it's generating questions about our food supply and how we use food and how we can make better use of it, whether it's improving food safety, whether it's improving the production of food so that there's more food available to people, whether it's sustainable practices so that the land can be used for generations to come. Really impressive, the kind of not just skills that you're learning, but I think the knowledge that you're gaining from these kinds of programs. When I think about data science and the role of analytics, we heard a little bit earlier about how much data and science is fundamental to agriculture. It's not just about it's much more than just the farming and the production. There are so many components of everything we do around agriculture that require decisions to be made. They require folks to have knowledge at their fingertips to be able to know what to do. Whether it's farmers being able to decide what the best crops are to plant for the land that they have, or when to plant them, or when to harvest them. There's a lot of data that can help them make those decisions. when we talk about producing food, making sure that food is made safely, that there's not risks of pathogens and things that can make people sick. You have to have a good understanding of how to cook that food, how to prepare it in a way that that is safe to eat. And I think there's a lot of science and data that goes into that. Even beyond the food production, there is a lot of work that goes on within USDA around supporting the community. It might be, there's a big part of USDA that supports rural communities, whether it's housing for individuals or helping small towns and small communities build, for example, water filtration treatment plants so that they can have safe water to drink, or hospitals so that they have a place to go when there's a health emergency. All kinds of things that happen across USDA in those areas. One area that probably you folks have heard of as well is the Forest Service and all of the national forests that are maintained by USDA. Understanding how to ensure that that's done in a safe way to minimize and try to prevent the risk from forest fires. There's a lot of data that goes into understanding where are the riskiest areas. How can we tell if a forest is dried out and needs some practices and some interventions to be done to prevent a major forest fire from breaking out. It doesn't always work out perfectly. As you know, we still get forest fires and they can present a really significant risk. But there is a lot of work that goes on both during the fire season to put out those fires and also in between to prevent that. So really significant. Even when we talk about what's going on lately with the COVID pandemic that is affecting so many of us, USDA has really been involved very heavily in trying to assess how COVID is affecting everyone in this country, what we can do to improve that situation and address some of the concerns and needs that are going on. We heard a little bit about the food supply and how, particularly at the start of the pandemic, how it was hard to get certain types of foods. We heard about chicken and beef not being available in stores because people couldn't work at the plants in order to produce those foods to get them to the grocery stores. I was involved in a project just over the past couple of months to really try to understand what was going on there. We were hearing the news stories. We had folks who were gathering a lot of data about how much meat and poultry were being produced. And the Secretary of Agriculture really wanted to know what's going on. Show me what is the big picture? How is that changing every day? And we had to get a group together and really talk about what data do we have in USDA? How does it fit together? How do we take data that this one agency might have and combine it with this other agency and bring it together into a good picture that tells the secretary and can tell the Americans how we're doing. And we were able to do that. We were able to build a visualization that showed that there were impacts, that production had gone down, but we were also able to show how the industry recovered from that and where we're at today and be able to speak to that. So data is so fundamental to everything that we're doing within the organization. When I think about the topic areas that you've worked on for the STEAM camp, food safety, I mentioned a little bit about, that's an area where I came from. I spent almost 10 years working in the food safety and inspection service here at USDA. Their whole purpose, their whole mission is to ensure that safe food is being produced and that it's available in grocery stores for meals, it's available in schools for lunches, it's available in restaurants for Whoppers and Chicken McNuggets and all of those kinds of things. A lot of what I did was looking at data and analytics to try to understand how we can see where areas of concern might be happening, and how do we take steps to address that and correct it before before like a foodborne illness outbreak occurs and people start getting sick and recalls have to happen. When I think a little bit about urban agriculture, we talk a lot about farms, but more and more there's interest in these like container farming, growing crops in areas that you wouldn't think of as a typical farm. Maybe it's um, within a warehouse or even in someone's backyard. I think more and more people are thinking about how to take advantage of their backyards to raise chickens or grow crops. And I think that's one of the things that's changed a little bit with COVID and people staying at home and restaurants being closed. How do we ensure that that people know how to do that correctly? How do we give them good information and guidance on what to grow and how to do it safely? And even in containers and warehouses, what are the right conditions that are needed for those to grow really well and be able to produce food in an economically good way, so that kind of growth and agriculture can sustain. Thinking about hunger and poverty, there's so much going on now with schools. Do schools open? Do they stay virtual? What about all the meals that were being made available through those school programs? A big part of what USDA does is work with states and work with schools and education programs to ensure that there are meals available. What do we do now that those normal activities are changing, and how do we adjust accordingly to that? What are the impacts, and how do we make adjustments to that? We need to look at the data that we're gathering here at USDA to be able to answer those kinds of questions and make good decisions, so that people aren't left without the ability to get a meal like they have been maybe in the past. Renewable energy is another one where there's just a lot of different areas within USDA thinking about how to make the best use of our resources. A big part of our farm service agency and our conservation agencies are around how do we conserve the resources that we have? How do we make the best use of water? How do we make the best use of fertilizer and nutrients? How do we prevent the land from being eroded? And so those renewable resources are really, I think, important to be able to ensure that we're able to keep using and growing food at the amounts that we need to feed everyone. When I think about myself as the Deputy Chief Data Officer here at USDA, it's really a fantastic opportunity that I see. It's a chance to work across all of those organizations. It's a chance for me to be able to see how we're having impacts in so many different areas, and to be able to work with those organizations to really maximize and take the greatest advantage of the data they have as possible. We're doing things like creating new solutions where all of our organizations, all of our missionaries and agencies within USDA can deposit their data there and make it available in one resource. So if all of a sudden we need to gather data about a key question, like what's happening to our food supply, all of that data is there, and it's really just a matter of bringing it together and getting these data scientists access to that so that they can do the analytics and generate the insights that they need. Data science itself, I think, is just such an important role within not just USDA, but within so many industries that I think it's just a fascinating opportunity that you get to be able to develop some of those skills. For me, I think a lot of my opportunities came in college and in my early career, getting to look at some of the genetic data that we were producing and really thinking about what that data means. I think getting to do some of those, look at some of those same kinds of data in high school sets you on such a good path to be able to have those skills, that knowledge, that ability to think critically about the data that you're looking at and what does it mean and how do I look at that in a meaningful way and not and minimize the chance that it's misinterpreted. Those kinds of skills will take you really far in whatever career path you go, whether it's agriculture, science, industry, retail, just all kinds of areas where data is needed, and the ability to think about the underlying data that is being produced is important. You think about even big companies like Google, Facebook, underneath all the tools and the Zoom and those things that we're using, there's data there that really is driving how those companies produce what they do. So really encourage you to keep up what you've learned. I think take advantage of what is out there. There's so much data. I think you've learned a little bit about what's out there that's just openly available, that you can go and grab whenever you need to, whenever you have a question and you want to try to look into that answer, or whenever you read about something or hear about something and want to learn more about it. The tools that you got to use, there's a lot of opportunities to be able to continue to do that. Many of these programs or these tool sets are either freely available and you can download them and use them on your computer. A lot of them have free access while you're in college or in high school, for that matter. You can get access to these tools and be able to keep learning and keep utilizing them. So would really encourage you to keep doing that and support everything that you're doing, and really excited to hear about the presentations that you'll give later today. And with that, I think I'll kind of wrap up. I think happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Christopher? Parents, students, sponsors? Okay. Thank you, Christopher. We appreciate your participation and your taking the time out to address this organization. Thank you.
Thank you.